We saw before that whenever you press record, files are created on the SD card, one file for each ARM track. Now you may not care about this. You may just want to record and mix within the machine and have no interest in transferring the files to a computer. Or you may not even have a computer. But I'm going to take a look under the hood anyway, as I think it may explain why there are some things you should or shouldn't do, and later on it may show why mixdown and mastering modes are so different to this normal multi-track mode. So I'll connect the machine to a computer with a USB cable, and we can then look at the files as they are created. So first we'll do what was recommended on day 1 of this tutorial and start with a clean slate. I'll load a template. Pick whichever one you made last time. I'll use my reset template. Then we'll try recording something and look at the SD card. Now for this test, there's no need to connect anything to the inputs or outputs, or make any assignments. It's dead easy. Just arm a track and press record. Now the stream of numbers we talked about earlier will still be generated and stored in a file, which is all we care about. The numbers will represent a 0 voltage level, so if we did play back the recording, it'll just be silence. Now just an aside, if I try and record now, we see a song protected error. And this is because I write protected that template song. So you can see how easy it is to accidentally overwrite these. What I should have done is loaded the template and then immediately create a new song, which will adopt all the settings from the template. A new song will be unprotected by default, so we can play around with that one without messing up the template. Okay, let's try again. Load the template, create. We'll just call this demo. Now before recording, let's take a look at the SD card first. I go to Menu, USB, and press Yes to connect. Then go over to the computer and navigate to the SD card. Okay, here it is here, DP24 SD it's called. Now if you're following along with your SD card, just one word of warning, do not alter the contents of the card unless you know what you're doing. You'll see later what you can and cannot do, but for now, just browse and do not copy or drag and drop any files. It's very easy to move files instead of copying. You may not realize these are different operations. Now the folder we're going to look at is this one called Music. If you open the folder, you'll see more folders, or subfolders if you like, with names you might recognize. These are the song names. So each song folder contains everything related to that song. So let's open the folder for our new demo song. And you'll see there's just a couple of files, .sys files, system files, but there's no WAV files. And before we can do anything with the machine, we need to close the USB link at both ends. And you don't have to physically unplug the cable, but you should do these 2 steps in the correct order. Otherwise the SD card may become corrupted and you'll not be able to access your recordings. So first, disconnect the computer end. You can right-click and then click Eject. Or you can use the Safely Remove option down on the bottom right of your screen. You wait for the OK, and only then go back to the DP machine and press F2 to disable at this end. Okay, we're on the home screen, so we'll arm track 1 and press record. We'll leave it a few seconds. and stop. Now we'll re-enable the USB link. If you look at the computer, you'll see it should pop up. There it is. And now we can see there's a WAV file with this ZZ prefix. Now it might look like the 1 in the file name means that it's for track 1, but don't be deceived. These files are for machine use only. There are other ways of creating files for you to use, but we'll cover this later. I'm only showing you these files in the music folder so you can get a feel for what's going on. Let's go back and record on track 8. On track 8, press record. Back to USB. Back on the computer. And now we can see a second WAV file. Now which one belongs to which track? Right, one last test. Let's go back and carry on recording on track 8. If we press fast forward, it will go to the last recorded position, which is 5 seconds in. On track 8, and just carry on recording. Now the files are getting even more confusing. Now 2 of them must be for track 8, but I'm not sure. This is why none of these ZZ files have meaningful names. They're not meant for you to play or mix or edit or anything else outside the machine. Now if you look at the timestamps for the files, you can see the 2 system files are also being modified. Now I don't really know what goes on inside these, but I would guess the machine keeps a list of file pointers so it knows which files belong to which tracks, and also pointers to the relevant parts of each file, along with other settings for routing and effects. So this is another reason these ZZ WAV files on their own are not sufficient to play back the tracks properly. Now one reason for showing you this is to highlight a major difference between files and traditional analog tape. On a tape recorder, if you rewind the tape and press record, you will overwrite the previous recording. Now on this machine, when you rewind, the original files are not rewound. Instead, they are left untouched and a new file is created, I presume along with adjustments to the pointers, so the files can play back correctly in their new order, and you'll be none the wiser. Now you may ask why make things so complicated, but there are real advantages to doing this. If the files are always left intact, the machine can undo the recording by simply altering its pointers. The files can be played back in any order it chooses, so you can undo and redo at will. The only downside is that more space is used on the card. Now it can use similar tricks to save space. Now I mentioned the clone track option on the last video, so let's see what this does. Here's the song contents before cloning, and now let's clone track 1 to track 2. Track edit. Here's clone track. Source track 1, target track 2. Yes. Look in the timeline, and we can see track 1 and track 2 appear to have data on them. Back to the card. You can see there are no new WAV files. So the illusion is done by making track 1 and track 2 both point to the same file. This is why the function seems instantaneous, no matter how big the track file is. No audio data is being copied. Now one important point comes out of this. It's essential the machine keeps its pointers in step with the files, so it must be given the chance to update the system files. If you pull the plug on the machine, it might not have had chance to do this, or it might not even have had chance to finish off writing the audio WAV files. Either way, the card has been compromised. So it's crucial you always shut down the machine in a controlled manner. In other words, press and hold the on-off button and wait for the screen to go blank before removing the power. So we've seen you should not mess with these ZZ WAV files in the music song folder, but there is something you can do. You can copy the whole song folder for backup and restore purposes. As long as the contents are kept intact, the system files will still correlate with the WAV files for that particular song. Now you could copy the song folders to your computer and then delete those folders from the card to free up space. And you can restore songs by copying the saved folders back into the music folder on this card or any other card. And whenever you go to Menu Songs, the machine builds the song list on the fly from all the folders it finds under the music folder. And you can also rename any song folder from the computer end. Now you're restricted to 15 characters for each name, but if you've got a lot of renaming to do, it can be quicker to do it from here. Let's test this by copying our demo song and renaming it. I'll make another copy and we'll give it a longer name. Right, back to the machine. Menu, song. There we are, that's our new song, demo song 2. And there's no sign of the one with the long name. I'll go back and shorten the name. Right, by my reckoning that's 15 characters. And there it is.